All right, so for those of you just joining us or having just joined us recently, what you need to have today is these notes that you're looking at. We're going to go over those and how to do them so that we can work on that particular skill related to linear functions both today and Thursday. So please have those ready. As I said a little bit ago, I forgot actually to put this on as an assignment on EDSB. So there was no place to submit them. So that's okay. We'll just leave that off as a graded assignment for right now then. You will see today's IXL section on EDSB for a grade where I want you to submit that grade for me. So please have those ready and we'll go ahead and get started here in a minute or two. One other thing about IXL, I've had some people complete some IXL sections late. If you are turning something into me, especially IXL, after the due date, please let me know once you are done with it, all right? IXL is not gonna send me a notification. You need to send me that notification. Because especially now that we are counting late work and taking points off for late work, it's really important that you notify me as soon as you get that done so that I can stop counting the clock as far as late days, all right, and get that grade put in for you. Anything related to IXL that's late, please, again, just send me a notification. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. So hopefully everybody has those notes in front of them, or at least something to write with on that. Let's see here. I was just getting a little bit of feedback there. Sorry about that. Okay, so just give me a thumbs up or a raised hand if you need a minute on finding those notes or having something to write with. All right, so once you have what you need, go ahead and put those hands down and we'll get started on it. All right, while we're waiting on a few people, let me just check in with Miss Carrie real quick. Miss Carrie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. You know, consider it's a good day. Nice day outside. Spent the morning outside a little bit with my dogs. So
nice.
Now we come indoors for the day. So all right, looks like we still got a few hands up here. So let me just check on these guys, see if they actually have questions. Let's see, let me come to, let's see who had Trevor. Trevor, did you have a question, buddy?
Yeah, I can't seem to find it on EDSB.
This would have been from Friday.
Okay. All right, I'll check that.
Last week, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, and let's see, looks like the other hands went down. So let's go ahead and get started on this, and we'll get questions out of the way, and hopefully we can get some practice in today then in groups again. So this is actually our last new lesson for this unit on linear functions. So next week, what we're going to do Monday and Wednesday is we're going to do a bit of review of those topics kind of overall. So we'll do some kind of mixed practice on Monday. On Wednesday, we're going to do sort of in class, like we would normally do, an in-class practice test. And then on Friday, I'll let you know on Wednesday a little bit more about sort of the format of the test and how we're going to do it, but Friday next week would be your test, okay? So that's kind of where we're heading. So today we're just going to finish up this last lesson and practice it for a couple of days. So Unit 9, Lesson 5 is what we're looking at. And what we're working on is being able to change from this standard form, right, this ax plus by equals c format, into the slope-intercept form, and that would be y equals mx plus b. So in order to get y equals mx plus b, eventually we got to get y by itself, all right? So that's our goal anytime we are looking to put something into slope-intercept, is to get this variable right here, the y variable, by itself, okay? So the first thing we want to do, and the steps are there for you, is to move the x term to the other side. And if this is truly in standard form, this first term should be positive. So this is actually truly standard form because this first term is positive. And so we would subtract this. Now on the practice, you see that I've shown you something that's not quite standard form because it's got a negative first term, but it's close enough. And so in this practice, we wouldn't be subtracting to get rid of this negative term. We would add to get rid of this negative term, right? So we're just trying to get this first term, the x term, off of that side to begin to get the y term by itself, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do on this particular example problem, as we saw in the videos, if you watched, is subtract that 5x, right? And I'm going to subtract the 5x from here as well. When you do one thing to one side of the equation, you have to do it to the other. So what I'm left with is this term, and don't forget that that sign goes with this term, right? We can kind of think of these as boxes, that plus or minus sign actually starts that term. So this is technically a negative 3y term that's left on that side. So we have this negative 3y equals, because this thing goes away, right? 5x minus 5x is just gone. This side, however, is what we need to pay attention to a little bit and how we're going to order it. Because we can't actually subtract 5x from 8. They're not like terms, all right? If we recall simplifying expressions with variables and things like that, they have to have the same type of term. So I can't subtract a 5x from an 8 because I would need an 8x in order to subtract a 5x from it. So just an 8 isn't a like term, so I can't actually combine these in any way. So what do I do with this? Well, if I know that eventually what I want is this y equals mx plus b format, well, right now I know that then I want the x term, right? Because this m is going to have some number and this b is going to be some number. I need this x term to come first. So I'm actually going to list this as two separate terms, 8 and negative 5x, but I'm going to list the x term first because it comes first in the format. Now this 8 is actually a positive 8, so I would just write it like that, okay? So that's me just moving this to the other side and by subtracting. Now, if we notice also the other way we can kind of look at this is that when I move this 5x to the other side, it really just becomes its opposite over here, all right? So that might be an easier way to kind of think about how you move that is whatever it is over here, it moves to the other side and becomes its opposite, okay? So that could be another way of thinking about it for you. Now, the last step of this is really just a two-step process up here, is divide every term in the equation by that coefficient for y, okay? So if that coefficient is a negative 3 in this case, I'm going to divide every term, not just the negative 3y, but also this negative 5x and also this 8, all right? And that is going to create some fractions for us, but that's okay. We'll have it in the format that we need. So I'm going to divide every term by that coefficient, because whatever we do to one side, we have to do to both sides. And when we're dividing one term, we divide every term, okay? So this is y now. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just 1y, or just y. Negative 5 divided by negative 3 actually becomes a positive, and I could put a decimal here, but if we recall, slope-intercept form usually has a fraction for the slope. That m value on the front of this is now our slope. So we have this 5/3 that just becomes a positive because negative over negative is a positive. So we'll just leave that as the fraction. And this one also is a positive divided by a negative, which would make it a negative term. So I'm actually going to just write the negative as a subtraction sign there, because that will make this a negative 8/3 term. Okay, so that would be our slope-intercept from this standard form. All right, any questions on that before we look at the practice and go through it perhaps a little bit more quickly? All right, doesn't look like we have any hands at this point. So let's go to this practice problem. And based off of what we just talked about, let me just call on someone real quick here to see what they can tell me about the first step for this practice problem. So let's go to Toby, maybe. Toby, you happen to be the first one on my list here, so you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Oops, sorry, I think I muted you back. Toby?
You're
All right, sorry about that. I accidentally hit your button. Oh,
good.
it just keeps muting you back. That's weird.
Oh, there's a thing where I can just hit spacebar and it unmutes and mutes. So
All right. Okay. So what would be our first step on this practice problem? If I'm wanting to move the x term to the other side, what would I do to do that?
multiply 5y by 0.
Not, if I'm wanting to graph from standard form, I would, but I don't want to necessarily graph from standard form here. I'm just trying to change from standard form. So first step on those notes says to move the x term to the other side by either adding or either subtracting or adding. So what would I do to move that x term?
You would subtract
Okay, what would I be subtracting?
the 5.
So this is our x term, right?
Oh,
So what am I doing to make that negative 2x go away?
adding
Adding what?
2.
Okay, I would be adding the 2x.
2.
All right. And so I add it there and over here. And let's see here. Let's see. What would we have after that? Let me just go over here to Andrew. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what would I have after I do that step? Adding 2x to both sides.
Okay. So, well, I mean, you get rid of the 2x, but you can't get rid of the 15.
Okay, so what would I have on this left side? What would be on the left side of the equation?
The left side would be 5y.
Okay. And that equals what on the other side?
Equals, and then I think you put negative 2x, I think. I don't know.
Not negative, because see how I'm adding 2x?
Oh, so then would it just be positive 2x?
Yep, so it would be 2x and
And
then
then plus 15.
plus 15, because we still have that positive 15 on that side. All right, good job. Thank you. All right, what would be our next step? Maybe someone give me a hand this time. All right, Trevor. Trevor, what would be our next step there?
You can do
Um, you divide them both by 5, all by 5.
Okay, so we're going to divide everything by 5. So we're going to divide that one by 5,
Mm-hmm.
that one by 5, and
Mhm.
that one by 5. Right? Good job.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and simplifying that, what would we get? Let's go to, let's go to Cassidy here. Cassidy, good morning.
Good morning.
So what would I get on this when I divide it by 5 on that first, this term right here?
I got 1, and since I remember you saying like every I guess like letter would just be is equivalent to 1, so I just put Y.
Okay, so it's technically 5 divided by 5 is 1 or 1y. So if we just see the single variable, that does technically mean 1y, right? So good job. What about this? What would we leave that as?
I left it as 2/5.
Okay, good. And does this simplify, or should we leave it as that fraction?
I simplified it to 3.
Okay, excellent. Good job. Thank you. So that would be our final form there. So from sort of standard form, because normally that would be a positive number if this was actually standard form. But we wanted to take a look at what we need to do if that were negative for some reason. So we add, divide by 5, and simplify everything. All right. Any questions on that process? 2 steps, right? Move the x to the other side and divide by that y coefficient. All right. So let's take a look at what this would look like here if we were just taking the basic format of standard form. All right. If you recall, standard form is ax plus by equals c. That should be an equal sign. It's not really showing up very well on that document camera here. So ax plus by equals c. So if I wanted to change this to slope-intercept form, I would just, again, solve for y. So in this, I've got a lot of variables, but what I want to do is just get this x off of that side. So this is a positive a, so I'm going to subtract ax from both sides. All right, keep in mind that this c, like up here, is going to be a constant term, okay? An integer of some type. So if that were the case, we would be left with by equals negative ax plus c, just like up here, right? We were left with negative 5x plus 8. So here now we would divide by whatever this coefficient is. In this case, our coefficient technically would be whatever the value of b is, and we would divide each term. So our final format for this, if we were to just look to see what it would look like in slope-intercept form, would be that equation. Okay, any questions on what I just did there? Again, sort of related to what we were doing up here. It's just that these A, B, and C, we didn't actually plug in any numbers for, and we just went through this, all right? And the reason we're doing this is to see if, let's say, for example, somebody said, hey, what is the slope of this line, right? If I came up here and somebody said, what's the slope of this line? Well, it's not stated in standard form, right? Standard form doesn't include the word slope in its title, so it's not actually in it. So we would have to change the whole thing over to find that our slope is 5/3. Or if we understand that we can get these ratios from it, we can also get to it a little faster perhaps. Right, so let me move this camera down a little bit here. So I know at least one person messaged me and said they were having trouble figuring out what these blanks were on their notes. So let's make sure we get those filled in. So slope in standard form is this ratio, all right? Because this is now y equals mx plus b if we're talking about slope-intercept form, right? Y equals mx plus b. So slope in this is actually this ratio of negative a, or the opposite of a, over b, okay? And then the y-intercept, or the this plus b from slope-intercept form, would be this part, this ratio of c over b in standard form, okay? So let's look at that real quick with the example problem that we did from the videos was this one, right? So if I'm looking at the negative a over b is what my slope is going to be, and c over b is my y-intercept. Let me move this down a little bit again. Okay, so we've got negative a over b, so this is a, so I'm going to take the negative of a, or the opposite of a. Well, the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. So if I have negative a over b and I've got a negative a value, it actually just becomes its opposite then, or it's positive. So this would be 5, and then b is 7 in that format. So my slope is 5 over 7. So if we understand that that is our ratio, we don't actually have to go through the full process to answer a question about slope in standard form if we just take the opposite of a and put it over b. Same thing for the y-intercept. If I take c and put it over b, that will tell me the y-intercept. So in this process, I would just take 35 and put it over 7, right? 35 is my c value, b is my, or 7 is my b value, and then I can actually simplify that a little bit and call that just 5, okay? So questions on that example or process at all? Let me show of hands. All right, doesn't look like it. So let's take a look at the practice problem real quick then. So what we want for this m is, again, negative a over b, all right? So for the m, the slope, in other words, let me come to, let's go to Nate real quick. Good morning, Nate. How are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm great. So tell me what in this process then, what would negative a over b equal for this practice problem? So what is the negative of the a, or the opposite of the a?
Negative 6x or 6.
Yeah, it's just the 6, so negative 6, all right? And then what is the b value from here?
Negative 3.
Okay, so negative 3. So if this simplifies, we would want to do that. What would that simplify to?
Just negative 2.
Okay, so we have a negative over a negative.
Sorry.
Negative?
What's it called? I can't think today.
It's all right.
What is it?
Divided by a negative is a positive, right?
Yeah. Okay. Now it's 2. Okay.
Yeah, so it would be 2. All right. Thank you. And let me go to, let's say, let me come up here to Cade real quick. Cade, good morning. Cade, you there? All right, we'll come back. We'll go to John. Good morning, John. You there? John? All right, we'll try one more. Let's see. Over here to, let's see. Check in with Natalie. Natalie, good morning. How are you? Natalie? I'm not sure if we're just having technology issues here with connection or not, but does someone have, by raise of hand, want to answer this last question for us? How to get to that y-intercept? All right. Well, let's just go through and finish it up then. All right, so we'll get into our groups here so we can get some practice in on this. So the last part of this is the y-intercept, right? It's the C over B ratio. Okay, so C over B, right? C is this 18. And the B is, as Nate told us, -3. So this would simplify as well. A positive divided by a negative would be a negative number. So this would simplify to -6 on that y-intercept. Okay, questions on that process? We won't actually be practicing that process on our IXL today. What we're going to be practicing is this process where they're actually going to want us to change it with numbers involved there. So any questions on especially that first practice at all before we split into groups? No? All right. So Miss Carrie, I'm going to send a group with you, and I will send a group up. Let me 1 second. We do have a question from Cassidy. Good morning, Cassidy.
Good morning. So your screen is kind of cut off for me. So can you just say the second fill in the blank?
Yeah, this is C over B.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let me stop share on that, and we'll split to groups. And let's see here. So 2 rooms.
Mr. Peters, can you remind us what the IXL lesson is so we can?
Oh, yes, sorry about that. It is
Okay.
Y11. And we are normally trying to get to 90 today. I think we're just going to go to an 80. All right. So a little less work because there's a few more steps to these than some of the sections we've been doing. So we'll break into rooms here. So IXL 8th grade Y11. And let's see, Miss Carrie, I'm sending 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 4. I think 4 with you.
Okay.
And so that and the rest I will send with me. And guys, don't forget in the breakout rooms, you can unmute yourself to talk with one another, but also share your screen with your teachers if you're using your laptop for the Zoom, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and open those rooms and we'll see everybody in there. All right, so guys, I'm going to be looking at the live IXL to see how you guys are doing. Please give me a shout if you've got a question. Is everybody logged into IXL here? Looks like I'm several of you who are in class. I'm not seeing you showing as active on IXL right now. So make sure you're logged in. And make sure you're doing the correct section 11.
Oh.
Okay. What would your first step be there? What do you need to do first?
Okay, so first you make sure that you isolate the y by subtracting 13x and 6, or 13x minus 13x, and then you do 6 minus 13x.
Okay. So let me
Share. Okay, hold on.
I can do it. Just go back. So what was
Oh, okay.
what was the problem again? 13x.
13x minus 11y equals 6.
Okay. So I'll just share this with you, and I want you to walk me through what your steps are then. So let's go to our whiteboard. All right. So you said we're going to subtract the 13x, right?
Yeah, and
Okay. So we do that here and
and
here.
at the 16, yeah, 6.
So what's left on this side, on the left side?
So on the left side, you're gonna put negative 11y, and then you put an equal sign,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put the negative 13x,
Yeah.
and then plus 6.
Okay. Good job. So our second step now is to do what?
It's either, yeah, it's to subtract, right, or divide.
It's divide. Second step is division.
So you divide 11y by everything.
Negative 11y, right?
Oh yeah, sorry.
11, I should say, not negative 11y, but just negative 11.
Mhm.
So this simplifies to what? Which is, again, why we do that. Hopefully, we're just going to get y there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what does this simplify to?
I don't think that simplifies the 13
Okay.
and 11.
Well, it simplifies in that we don't want two negatives, right? I don't want a negative over a negative. So it would give me a positive fraction instead of
13.
a negative fraction.
So then it would be 13, and then the 13 over 11.
Right, and then the x.
Yep.
You got a positive over a negative, which would just simplify to a
Negative.
negative. 6 over 11. Right, so that should be what you type in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then using IXL.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else?
I need some more help.
Okay. Want to share the screen, or you just want to tell me the problem? All right. So first step would be what?
To subtract 5x from 5x and 18
Okay.
to separate negative 2y.
Okay. Good. So what would you have at that point? Tell me what the equation would say after you do that.
Hey,
Negative 2y equals 5x plus 18.
Okay. So negative 2y equals, did you say 5x?
Yes.
Okay. Remember, when it moves to the other side, it should become its opposite. So in the fact that this is actually true standard form that IXL is giving you each time means that x moves to the other side should become negative, whatever that is. So in this case, it should say negative 2y equals negative 5x plus 18.
Okay. So then we would divide everything by negative 2.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you're going to get y, right?
Yeah, and then
What fraction do you get on the slope?
negative 5 over 2.
Over negative 2, technically, right?
Yeah.
So a negative over a negative would simplify to a positive over a positive, actually. Right? So it should actually, when completely simplified, should say 5 over 2.
Okay.
Don't forget the x. And then what's
And
that last?
it would be negative 9.
Yeah, so minus 9.
Peters, I need help again.
All right, 1 sec. Let me just make sure she finishes typing this in properly.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All
Trevor, go ahead.
Oh, I couldn't.
right.
Okay. So first step is going to be what?
Get the 10y by itself, the plus 10y by itself.
Okay, so what would your equation say when you do that?
Plus 10y equals 14x minus 7.
All right, remember, same thing I just said to Cassidy, when you move that x term to the other side, it becomes opposite, all right? So it's going to say
Negative.
10y equals negative 14x minus 7, right?
Okay.
Right, and then when you divide, what are you dividing by? That's
10.
So you're going to divide everything by 10. So what does your equation say then? Make sure to simplify all your fractions as you can.
So good so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, looks good.
Thank you.
Mr. Peters, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so since you know how we have to keep the fractions in order, what happens? Do you change the fraction to a whole number if you get a 3/1, or do you
Yeah.
keep it?
No, you would if it simplifies to a whole number, change it to integer. Like if you get 10 divided by 5, you would change that to 2. So if you've got something dividing by 1, yeah, change that to the whole number.
Okay, thank you.
I need help on this one now.
All right, go ahead, share. Okay, so first step,
You have to get the y. Of course, you have to get the 14y by itself.
okay,
The negative 14y. So you do negative 14y equals negative 9, 6 plus 3.
9x, yeah,
9x plus 3.
okay.
Okay.
And
Plus 3?
then,
Oh, yeah, plus 3. Okay.
yep,
Alright. Okay. And then you divide all sides by 14, negative 14.
yeah.
So it'd be like this.
So nothing should simplify there other than be a negative divided by a negative becoming the positive.
Mhm.
Wait. Is that a plus or a minus? I can't see that.
A plus.
Okay, because remember, you got a positive 3 being divided by a negative 14 is going to make it a negative. So it should say minus 3/14.
Okay. Like that? Oh, shoot. Like that?
Yep,
Okay. Thank you.
yep.
What about this one?
Well, that one really only has one step because y is already by itself once you get rid of the x, right?
Right. So the y equals. So that start off like that, right?
Yeah.
Then you do. How do I do this?
So when you move the x to the other side, what happens?
There's 3x.
Becomes its opposite, right? So it'll
It'll
become
be
negative
negative.
3x.
Yeah, negative 3x.
And then minus 17. Guys, I got to
Okay.
here because it's noon actually. I wasn't paying too much attention to the time, so I got to wrap us up here. All right. If you guys need any additional assistance, please come see me at office hours from 2 to 3. All right.